Welcome back to another episode of Spooky Saturday. In this week's episode, I'm going to be telling you about 5 of some of the most haunted places in Texas. So, without further ado, let's get spooky. First up, we have Bragg Road in Saratoga. Deep dark woods and an oft-seen but unexplained light. These are ideal ingredients for a good ghost story. The Big Thicket is a dense, biodiverse forest region in East Texas. A few tribes, including the Alabama, Coushatta, and Caddo, hunted around the edges, but it was essentially uncharted territory when the Anglo settlers arrived in the 1830s, seeking solitude to hunt and carve out subsistence farms. Swampy, dark and difficult to penetrate, it was a destination for people who didn't want to be found. Oil and lumber operations rendered the terrain more accessible, but the Big Thicket remains plenty dense and mysterious today. In the heart of the Big Thicket is Hardin County, and in the heart of Hardin County is the infamous Bragg Road, home to countless sightings of the Ghost Road Light, aka Big Thicket Light, Saratoga Light, and Bragg Road Light, that appears to nighttime travelers on the road between Saratoga and the defunct village of Bragg Station. Before the current road was built, the Arrow Strait clearing served as a Santa Fe Railroad branch line built in 1903. For its inception, locals considered the line haunted by Mexican laborers murdered by a thieving foreman, a deserter shot by Confederate soldiers, a hunter lost forever in the woods, and a decapitated railroad brakeman searching for his head. But all the stories share a common theme: a floating orb of light. The road replaced the railroad tracks in 1934, but the light remained, seen by hundreds of people over the decades. The National Geographic published a clear photo of the light in a 1974 feature about the Big Thicket. Texas folklorist Francis Abernethy documented sighting stories from old-timers and young folks alike. In 1997, Hardin County designated Bragg Road as a Ghost Road Scenic Drive Park. A pretty road through the woods in the daytime turns into a spooky spot for supernatural sightings by night. Word is, the most auspicious times to see the light are on a moonless autumn night. There you go. Oh my gosh, I want to go. I want to see if I can see these orb lights. Very interesting. Next up, Yorktown Memorial Hospital, South Texas. From outside, Yorktown Memorial Hospital looks like the definition of a haunted. A 300,000 square foot building with a granite and concrete facade and overgrown bushes around its sides. Broken windows led into a black interior. The door is chained shut. Inside the building, a cool breeze wafts down the dark hallway. Leaves press against dusty windows, and wasps crawl along the walls. Originally built in the 1950s and managed by the Felician Sisters of the Roman Catholic Church, the sprawling facility contains 2 main floors, a basement, 2 wings, a chapel, and an observation tower. The hospital closed in 1986 after a new facility opened in nearby Curo. From then on, the building operated as a drug rehab facility, but the state closed it in 1992. The building sat empty, attracting stories of terrible malpractice and lurid misbehavior. Rumor has it that hundreds of patients died there. Naturally, it has also acquired a lasting reputation for ghosts. There are stories of touching them during tours. Just walking through the building makes them jittery. Hearing footsteps and faint moaning sounds. A lot of awful things went on here. This place freaks people out. The vibes are not good. Once you shut the doors and get in there, you forget there's even anything beyond the hospital. The hospital is on a private property and has been a popular spot for ghost tours since the building was acquired, in part by Joe and Max Rivera, owner of Victoria's Black Swan Inn, likewise haunted. Next one is the Plaza Theater Performing Arts Center in West Texas. El Paso's Plaza Theater opened as an opulent movie palace in 1930, operating for 55 years before shutting down in 1985. The theater has remained dark for about 2 decades before a grand renovation took place, turning it into a performing arts center in 2006. Not surprisingly, the Plaza spent its 76 years from inception to rebirth accumulating ghost stories. We managed to revive the historic theater before it was too late, says Gary L. Williams, Senior Program Officer with the El Paso Community Foundation, the organization that saved the Plaza Theater and then partnered with the city of El Paso to restore it to its former glory. The dust and cobwebs may be gone, but it appears the ghosts have remained. Some of the Plaza's creepy tales, concocted in abundance, featuring all the usual suspects: a drifting woman in white, a materializing man in black, a vanishing child bouncing a ball. Like most ghost stories, their veracity lies in the retelling rather than the reoccurring, but a much larger share of the Plaza's supernatural phenomena may require a ghost hunter's skill set to resolve. Apparitions, including orbs, lights and shadows, physical manipulations like electrical components switching on without power, objects moving independently, and sounds without the source, and manifestations such as stimulation by touch, smell, and temperature have all endured, transgressing the barrier between the spiritual and the material world again and again. Together, they suggest something more dynamic than a mere ghost story. You might want to call this a real haunting. Oh, that sounds creepy. AI Engineering Building, formerly known as the Animal Industries Building in Central Texas. In 1959, Roy Sims, foreman of the meat locker in Texas A&M University's old Animal Industries Building, was performing a bit of a routine butchery on a slab of bacon, and he was cutting toward himself. The knife slipped in his hand, stabbing his leg near the groin. The blade cut open his femoral artery. His assistant, who'd stepped out for a moment, returned to find him bleeding out on the floor. An ambulance was summoned, but in vain. Sims died before he could be removed from the building. Sims' death was a tragic accident, but it doesn't take much for tragic accidents to take on more ghostly cast. In the daytime, we never thought much about any ghosts or strange occurrences, says Jeffrey Savall. It was the nights when we were in the meat laboratory conducting research, usually by ourselves, that one would hear strange noises or feel like we weren't alone. Over the years, Saville says students and custodians working in the bowels of the building have reported invisible footsteps, strange noises, and objects scattered far from the original resting spots. Saville attributes many of the stories to the natural spookiness of an old building and noisy machinery, such as elevator and refrigeration compressors. A series of renovations of the building have turned the site of Sims' accident into an office space. Oh my gosh, can you imagine going to school and knowing someone died because they accidentally cut themselves with a knife? That's wild. And lastly, we have Hendley Row, Gulf Coast. They're friendly, says Cheryl Jenkins, manager of official structure in the Strand Historic District since 1990, it's not surprising that Henley Row is a hotspot for supernatural activity. Completed between 1855 and 1858 for shippers and cotton brokers, it was the town's tallest structure during the Civil War. The roof doubled as a Confederate lookout for Union ships. Galveston and nearby Barrier Islands, history have been laced with tragedy. It was the site of a bloody Civil War fight, and serial epidemics of yellow fever decimated the populace. Hurricanes blast through regularly. The 1900 storm left up to 12,000 casualties in the worst national disaster in U.S. history. No wonder Texas writer Brian Woodley called Galveston an old cemetery with a beach attached. Oh my gosh. The resident ghosts of Henley Row represent aspects of Galveston's history. There's the Confederate soldier seen on the roof and around the building. The blooded teenager factory worker is a vestige of the building's cotton grading days. The lady in white and the running and playing little boy and little girl are thought to be the 1900 storm victims. The upper floor house apartments and offices now, but Henley Market's glass ceiling reveals views of stairs and landings and perhaps apparitions. During renovations, workers reported tools mysteriously moving around. Jenkins and staff recall other spooky experiences. Some years ago, a friend gave her an old photo of Dr. Wilbur from a house on Church